morning. My name is Bonnie, and I'm joined today by Stephanie. We would like to welcome you to Morning Refresh. Today, we would like to talk about the subject of thankfulness. We will start with a few quotes from the sacred writings, followed by a short story, and ending with a brief meditation of song by Jessica.
Eat ye, O people, of the good things which God hath allowed you, and deprive not yourselves from his wondrous bounties. Render thanks and praise him, and be of them that are truly thankful.
Gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. It turns what we have into enough and more. It turns denial into acceptance, chaos to order, confusion to clarity. It can turn a meal into a feast, a house into a home, a stranger into a friend.
Our reflection today is a story. When Mrs. Klein told her first graders to draw a picture of something for which they were thankful, she thought how little these children who lived in a deteriorating neighborhood actually had to be thankful for. She knew that most of the class would draw pictures of turkeys or bountifully laden Thanksgiving tables. That was what they believed was expected of them. What took Mrs. Klein aback was Douglas's picture. Douglas was so forlorn and likely to be found close in her shadow as they went outside for recess. Douglas's drawing was simply this: a hand, obviously, but whose hand? The class was captivated by his image. "I think it must be the hand of God that brings us food," said one student. "A farmer," said another, "because they grow the turkeys." "It looks more like a policeman, and they protect us, I think," said Lavinia, who is always so serious. "It is supposed to be all the hands that help us, but Douglas could only draw one of them." Mrs. Klein had almost forgotten Douglas in her pleasure at finding the class so responsive. When she had the others work on another project, she bent over his desk and asked whose hand it was. Douglas mumbled, "It's yours, teacher." Then Mrs. Klein recalled that she had taken Douglas by the hand from time to time. She often did that with the children, but that it should have meant so much to Douglas. Perhaps, she reflected, this was her Thanksgiving and everybody's Thanksgiving. Not the material things given unto us, but the small ways that we give something to others.
Let's take a moment to prepare ourselves for the meditation portion today by finding a comfortable position, and if it feels right for you today, you can close your eyes. Letting go of any tension in our body and mind, just gently bringing your awareness to your in-breath and your out-breath. Now bringing your awareness to the music. If your mind wanders, just gently bring your attention back to the music.
But for the adversities that befall me in thy path, how could I ever taste the divine sweetness, sweetness? How could I ever taste the divine sweetness, sweetness of thy tenderness and love, of thy tenderness and love, of thy tenderness and love, of thy tenderness and love. But for the adversities that befall me in thy path, how could I me in thy path. How could I ever taste the divine sweetness, sweetness? How could I ever taste the divine sweetness, sweetness? How could I ever taste? How could I ever taste? How could I ever taste the divine sweetness, sweetness of thy tenderness and love, 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 of thy tenderness and love.
And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you, Jessica, so much. That was beautiful. And thank you all for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye-bye.